In the twilight of the Roman Republic, there arose a figure whose ambition and brilliance would forever alter the course of history. Gaius Julius Caesar, born into the ancient patrician Julian clan, was destined for greatness. From his first breath in 100 BCE, his family's noble and supposed divine lineage, coupled with their connection to the powerful Marius, set the stage for a life that would transcend the boundaries of Roman politics and laid the foundation for what was to become the Roman Empire. But do you know how he did it? Join us in this journey of leadership and courage. As a young man, Caesar's path to power was fraught with peril and opportunity. His early military service honed his tactical genius, while his natural charisma and oratorical skills marked him as a rising star in Rome's turbulent political arena. Yet it was his relationship with the titans of his age that truly forged the man who would become Caesar. The specter of Sulla loomed large over Caesar's early career. When the dictator demanded that Caesar divorce his wife Cornelia, the young nobleman showed a glimpse of the iron will that would define him. He refused, choosing exile over capitulation. This act of defiance nearly cost him his life, but cemented his reputation as a man of unwavering resolve. You might ask, who was this dictator? Lucius Cornelius Sulla Felix was a powerful Roman general and statesman who became dictator of the Roman Republic from 82 to 79 BCE. Sulla's dictatorship was marked by constitutional reforms, proscriptions of his enemies, and the strengthening of the Roman Senate's power, setting a precedent for future strongmen in Roman politics. Caesar's political journey was fundamentally shaped by his familial connections to Gaius Marius, a prominent popularis leader who had been a pivotal figure in Roman military and political reform. Marius had transformed the Roman military by allowing non-landowners to serve in the legions, breaking the traditional aristocratic monopoly on military service. This revolutionary approach challenged the senatorial elite and created deep political tensions that would resonate throughout Caesar's early career. The conflict between Marius and Sulla was far more than a personal rivalry. It represented a fundamental struggle for control over the Roman Republic's political machinery. When Sulla was originally appointed to lead the war against Mithridates, Marius politically maneuvered to have this prestigious command transferred to himself, triggering a constitutional crisis that escalated into open civil war. These political machinations created an environment of extreme volatility in which young Caesar would need to carefully navigate. Marcus Licinius Crassus emerged as a critical patron during these precarious years, recognizing Caesar's potential and understanding the political risk he represented. Crassus provided more than mere financial support. He offered a strategic pathway to political survival and advancement. Caesar, burdened by significant personal debts and political suspicion, found in Crassus a protector who could shield him from potential Sullan retribution. Crassus's patronage was a calculated political investment. By supporting Caesar, he was cultivating a charismatic and ambitious young politician who could advance the interests of the emerging popularis faction. This support went beyond clearing Caesar's financial obstacles and involved leveraging Crassus's extensive network to create political opportunities and provide crucial introductions in Rome's complex political landscape. The young Caesar's survival and eventual rise were thus not merely a product of individual brilliance, but the result of strategic relationships, political maneuvering, and the ability to navigate an extraordinarily volatile political environment. His connection to Marius made him a potential revolutionary in the eyes of the Sullan faction, yet his allies and his alliance with Crassus provided the protective mechanisms necessary for his political survival and eventual ascendance. As Caesar ascended through the Cursus Honorum, the traditional sequence of the public offices. He formed alliances that would shape the Republic's fate. His relationship with Pompey the Great, Rome's most celebrated general, began as a political partnership that seemed unassailable. Together with the wealthy Crassus, they formed the first triumvirate, an unofficial coalition that dominated Roman politics. Yet, beneath the surface of this alliance lay the seeds of a rivalry that would ultimately tear the Republic apart. The political establishment in Rome viewed Caesar with deep suspicion after his earlier political alliances and survival under Sulla's regime. The senatorial elite were determined to prevent him from gaining significant military power. Their strategy involved attempting to marginalize Caesar, hoping to limit his opportunities for military glory and political advancement. The traditional path to military command was tightly controlled by senatorial aristocracy, who viewed Caesar as a potential threat to their established order. They remembered his familial connections to Marius and his popularis political leanings, which challenged the traditional power structures of the Roman Republic. Caesar's political allies, particularly Crassus, understood that a military command would be crucial for enhancing his political reputation and providing the military credentials necessary for future political advancement. The solution emerged through the complex political negotiations that characterized Roman political maneuvering. Crassus played a pivotal role in securing Caesar's governorship of Gaul by arranging a political compromise that satisfied multiple factions. He created an opportunity that seemed, on the surface, to be a potential political exile, but would ultimately become Caesar's greatest platform for achievement. Initially, Caesar was granted governance of Cisalpine Gaul in 58 BC, a relatively modest provincial command. This appointment was not a straightforward triumph, but a carefully negotiated political compromise. The geopolitical landscape of Gaul provided a critical context for Caesar's military intervention. The Helvetii, a powerful Celtic tribe, were planning a massive migration that threatened the stability of Roman allies in the region. In 58 BC, these tribes sought to move through Roman-controlled territory, which would have disrupted the delicate balance of power and endangered Roman provincial interests. More critically, the Helvetian migration posed a direct threat to the Aedui, a Gallic tribe that was a long-standing ally of Rome. This impending migration gave Caesar both a strategic justification and a compelling reason to launch a military campaign, presenting an opportunity to demonstrate his military prowess while simultaneously protecting Roman interests. Caesar's relationship with Crassus and Pompey, the first triumvirate, was crucial in securing and expanding this command. Through political negotiation and mutual strategic interests, they managed to extend Caesar's governorship and military authority, transforming what was initially a limited provincial assignment into a comprehensive military campaign that would reshape the Roman understanding of its northern frontiers. Caesar's military campaigns in Gaul showcased not only his tactical brilliance, but also his ability to inspire loyalty in his troops. His audacious invasion of Britain further enhanced his legend, pushing the boundaries of the known world. These conquests brought him unprecedented wealth and fame, but they also stoked the fires of jealousy and fear among his peers in Rome. Perhaps no relationship better illustrates Caesar's complex nature than his affair with Cleopatra, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt. Their liaison was a heady mixture of politics and passion, producing a son and creating an alliance that scandalized Rome. In Cleopatra, Caesar found not just a lover, but a kindred spirit, a ruler who understood the burdens and ambitions of power. Can you imagine the modern USA being allies through political marriage and a son with China? That is the power that these two individuals brought together at that time. As Caesar's influence grew, so too did the list of his enemies. His ability to navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics was unparalleled, but it also bred resentment. Former allies became bitter foes, and the stage was set for a conflict that would shake the foundations of the Republic. Throughout his life, Julius Caesar demonstrated an uncanny ability to turn adversity into advantage. He forged relationships that catapulted him to the pinnacle of power, and his interactions with the leading figures of his time reveal a man of extraordinary complexity, at once ruthless and magnanimous, calculating and impulsive. These relationships, as much as his own innate talents, were the crucible in which the man who would transform Rome was formed. As we turn to examine Caesar's vision and its impact on Rome, we see how the experiences and connections of his remarkable life coalesced into a force that would irrevocably alter the course of history. The boy who was born into nobility had become a colossus, ready to straddle the narrow world and leave his indelible mark upon it. Throughout Roman history, few moments have been as laden with historical significance as a single river crossing. The Rubicon, a seemingly unremarkable stream in northern Italy, would become the symbolic point of no return in one of the most pivotal moments of the Roman Republic. It represented more than a geographical boundary. It was a constitutional line that no Roman general was permitted to cross with an army, symbolizing the delicate balance of power between military leadership and civilian governance. The decision to cross the Rubicon was the culmination of a complex political conflict that had been brewing for years. At its core, the confrontation was between Caesar and the Roman Senate, primarily led by Pompey, who had become increasingly hostile to Caesar's growing power and influence. The political landscape was charged with tension as the Senate sought to strip Caesar of his military command and potentially prosecute him upon his return to Rome. Caesar's governorship of Gaul was coming to an end, and the Senate, manipulated by Caesar's political opponent, demanded he disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. This demand was particularly dangerous for Caesar, as his political enemies were eager to bring criminal charges against him for his actions during his Gallic campaigns. Without the protection of his military command and his gubernatorial immunity, Caesar faced the very real possibility of political destruction, prosecution, and potential exile. The specific legal maneuvers were intricate. The Senate, influenced by Pompey, proposed that Caesar should either immediately return to Rome without his army or be declared an enemy of the state. This ultimatum was designed to place Caesar in an impossible position. If he disbanded his army, he would be vulnerable to persecution. If he refused, he would be branded a traitor. Pompey, who had previously been Caesar's ally in the first triumvirate, now sided with the senatorial faction, adding weight to the threat against Caesar. Caesar's decision was not merely about personal preservation, but about the broader political struggle within the Roman Republic. He understood that returning to Rome without his army would leave him at the mercy of his political enemies. The crossing of the Rubicon was a calculated act of political survival and defiance. By bringing his army into Italy proper, Caesar was directly challenging the fundamental constitutional norms that prohibited a general from bringing troops into Roman territory. The psychological and strategic calculations were profound. Caesar knew that crossing the Rubicon meant civil war was inevitable. He was acutely aware of the historical significance of his action, understanding that he was fundamentally challenging the existing political order. The famous quote attributed to him, "The die is cast, alea iacta est," reflects both his determination and his recognition of the point of no return. His military experience in Gaul had given Caesar both the confidence and the resources to challenge the Senate. He had a loyal and battle-hardened army, extensive military reputation, and a strategic mind that saw political challenges as opportunities for transformation. The crossing was not just a military movement, but a political statement, a direct challenge to the senatorial aristocracy that had sought to marginalize and potentially destroy him. As Julius Caesar stood at the banks of the Rubicon, he gazed not just at the river before him, but at the very fabric of Roman society. In that moment, as he uttered those fateful words, the die is cast. Caesar set in motion a series of events that would reshape the Roman world in his own image. Caesar's ambition was not merely personal, it was mythical in scope. Claiming descent from Venus herself, he saw his destiny intertwined with that of Rome. Like Alexander the Great, whom he famously wept over, Caesar sought to create a legacy that would echo through the ages. This grandiose self-perception drove him to challenge the very foundations of the Roman Republic. This act of defiance marked the beginning of Caesar's systematic dismantling of republican norms. As civil war engulfed the Roman world, Caesar's conflict with Pompey became a crucible for his vision of a new Rome. Each victory on the battlefield was matched by a radical reform in the halls of power. Caesar's triumph was not just over his enemies, but over the rigid structures of the old order. Upon assuming the role of dictator, Caesar embarked on a series of reforms that struck at the heart of Roman society. He expanded citizenship, he reorganized the calendar, and initiated massive public works projects. These changes were not merely administrative adjustments, they were the concrete manifestation of Caesar's dream of a unified and prosperous Rome, transcending the limitations of the old republic. Caesar's new reality for Rome was one of centralized power and expanded horizons. He envisioned a Rome that stretched beyond the Italian peninsula, incorporating diverse peoples and cultures under a single rule. This cosmopolitan outlook, radical for its time, laid the groundwork for the vast multicultural empire that Rome would become. Yet, Caesar's greatness came at a terrible price. His concentration of power and disregard for tradition alarmed even his supporters. The Senate, once the beating heart of the Republic, found itself increasingly marginalized. As Caesar's shadow grew longer, so did the list of those who saw in him the death of Roman liberty. On the Ides of March, 44 BC, Caesar's vision collided fatally with the last gasp of the old Republic. His assassination, far from restoring the ancient order, instead ushered in a new era of civil strife that would culminate in the rise of the Roman Empire. In death, as in life, Caesar had reshaped the world. The legacy of Julius Caesar extends far beyond the boundaries of ancient Rome. His name became synonymous with supreme authority, echoing through history in titles like Kaiser and Tsar. His writings, both military and political, continue to be studied for their insight and strategy. Caesar's life and death have inspired countless works of literature, art, and philosophy, cementing his place as one of history's most enduring figures. In the end, Julius Caesar's greatest achievement was not the conquest of Gaul, or even his military genius. It was his ability to imagine a reality beyond the constraint of his time, and through sheer force of will, bring that vision into being. He took a republic in decay, and for better or worse, set it on the path to imperial glory. The Rome that emerged from Caesar's shadow was fundamentally changed. It was a Rome that had tasted the possibilities of autocratic rule, a Rome that had seen its horizons expanded to the edges of the known world. Caesar's vision, this reality of his own, had become the new reality for an entire civilization. As we look back across the millennia, We see in Caesar a figure who transcended the role of mere statesman or general. He was a force of nature, a man who bent reality to his will, and in doing so, altered the course of human history. The Republic fell, the Empire rose, and at the center of it all stood Caesar, visionary, reformer, and architect of a new world order.